Swaminarayan ની જય, બાપા શ્રીની જય, સદગુરુઓ શ્રીની જય, સ્વામિનારાયણ ભગવાનની જય તથા અનંત અનાદિ મુક્તોની જય. A humble prayer in their lotus feet and our Guru, Anadi Muktraj Param Pujya Narayan Mama and Leela Masi's lotus feet, to augment this assembly with their divinity and grace, and to enhance our knowledge and guide us towards them. Last couple of weeks, we talked about many polytheist and monotheist religions and looked at the hierarchy under the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiv, with supporting stories, incidents, theories and observations. We also saw that there are limitations in the levels that we have looked so far. We will now transition into next level, where there are not very many cross-references from other religions to be taken, except for Hinduism itself. The only cross-references are the nun god of Egyptians, who rose from the waters of chaos, the Greek god of chaos, the Chinese god who rose from the oceans of creation. And those are pretty much the references that we find in other religions. So let's move to Hinduism. But before we do that, let's take a step back and look at the broad picture. For Hindus, primarily the existing belief systems are belief only in immanent form of God, or Nirakarvadi, and in Sakarvadi there are Vaishnavas, those who worship Lord Vishnu, his incarnations and Goddess Lakshmi. Then there are Shaiv who worship Lord Shiv, Shakta, those who worship Goddess Shakti and her different forms, and then there are those who worship Lord Ganesh. There are hardly any worshippers of Lord Brahma and a few worshippers of Goddess Saraswati. Broadly observing, worshippers of Lord Ganesh do not seem to be in the conversation of our God is greater. They readily accept Lord Shiv and Goddess Shakti to be a greater power. Shakta also mostly worship Lord Shiv as well, since the goddess is never without Lord Shiv. There is a thought stream that Goddess Shakti has more power than Lord Shiv, but that is a minority. So mostly the Vaishnav and Shaiv seem to be getting into the conversation of our God is greater. Based on Srimad Bhagavat, Brahma emerged from the navel lotus of Lord Vishnu. So Vaishnavas say that Lord Vishnu is greater amongst the Trinity. Shaiv, on the contrary, refer to the Purush and Prakriti mentioned in Srimad Bhagavat and say that Lord Shiv and Goddess Shakti are the Purush and the Prakriti, and therefore Lord Shiv is greater. And within the broad classification of Vaishnavas are the worshippers of Lord Vishnu, Lord Ram, Lord Krishna. Some even say that followers of Lord Swaminarayan are also Vaishnava. And it is this constant conversation and multiple thought streams that confuse many Hindu pundits and scholars, leave alone the common devotee and non-Hindus. So let's look at what Lord Swaminarayan, Sri Abjiva Pashri and Anadi Muktaraj Param Pujya Narayan Mama have taught us. In verse 47 of Sikshapatri, Lord Swaminarayan has mentioned that since both Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiv are mentioned as Brahm in Ved, so we are talking about the brilliant Brahm, not the deity Brahma. So since they are both mentioned as Brahm in Ved, consider them to be identified with one another. This verse puts to rest all the debates around who is greater amongst Vaishnavas and Shaivas. The contradiction comes in when we read about Lord Vishnu lying on a huge serpent in an ocean, from whose navel lotus Lord Brahma was born. So once Lord Brahma was born, he started walking around and he could not reach the ends of the lotus itself. So he started walking on the stack of the lotus, and he walked inside that stalk for 100 years of his life, but could not find its end. So he prayed for a longer life, came back and indulged into the activity of creating the universe and created the 14 loks inside that lotus. And we talked about those 14 loks in past couple of weeks. So if Trinity bears the same or similar powers and are identified with one another, who is the Lord Vishnu lying on the huge serpent who inspired the creation of 14 worlds? That Lord Vishnu has to be greater than Lord Brahma, since Lord Brahma could not find the end of the navel lotus. So the body of that Lord Vishnu must be really, really big. So if Brahma, Vishnu, Shiv, the Trinity, are all equal or similar in their powers, then that Lord Vishnu has to be somebody else. One of the things that we find a lot in the scriptures is a higher stratum God manifesting under the guise or disguise of lower stratum God or deity. Most of the time, the manifestation happens by way of Lord Vishnu of Trinity. The next two obvious questions are why Lord Vishnu and what is the need for the guise or disguise. When we talked about Trinity, we talked about Vishnu being a sattvic god, since of the three attributes, Sattva is the most favorable for divinity and spiritual progress. The higher spiritual strata prefer Sattva over Rajas and Tamas for manifestation. So that explains why Lord Vishnu, since he is a sattvic god and is preferable over Rajasic and Tamasic gods. Second question is, why the guise? In management, the higher levels in management do not generally interfere in skip level management. So skip level management is the upper level skips the level in between and directly interacts with the lower levels in management. For example, a VP does not really interfere in how a manager manages his or her teams on day-to-day basis. So if the VP wants to send a message across to the team, he or she usually passes on to the manager, who in turn passes it on to the team. The reason it is done this way is because a good manager is very close to the team and takes care of the team. The team trusts such a manager. So a message coming from the manager is well received rather than a message coming from a VP that the team members hardly communicate with. Team members are able to identify more with the manager than with the VP. It is a similar concept. Incarnation in guise of a well-worshipped god or deity is much well received to begin with, and the real greatness of the incarnation is later revealed, accepted, and worshipped. So that explains why the guise. So the Lord Vishnu sleeping on a giant serpent is the governing god of the Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiv. This Lord Vishnu is known as Vairat Purush or Vairaj Purush or Vairat Narayan or Mahavishnu. We will stay with the name Vairat Purush to avoid confusion with any references to Vishnu or Mahavishnu or Narayan. It is in the navel lotus of Vairat Purush that Lord Brahma was born, and created the 14 loks. This distinction is evident if one learns Sanskrit and reads the actual Srimad Bhagavat carefully with enough thought. For those who cannot learn Sanskrit, the word-to-word translation by ISKCON can be very helpful. So one of the things that I like about ISKCON group is they first provide a word-to-word translation and then they build sentences from that translation. So the word-to-word translation is very helpful because that frees us from the sentence formation and manipulation by somebody else. I already had a link to it in one of the earlier slides from past weeks. I'll include it again, and I'll also include links to Ved and Puran. This is only for those who want to study deeper. For others, this is already described by Sri Abjivapa Sri in Rahasyarth Vachanamritam. As I mentioned once in the past, one way is to study and confirm for ourselves, and other is to trust someone who seems to have our good at heart. The time spent in studying can be better utilized in spiritual progress if we are able to trust the trustworthy ones. In Gadada Madhya Prakaran 31st Vachanamritam, there is a lot of information available on Vairat Purush. The body of Vairat Purush and every strata under it is also made up of 24 elements. Like us humans, Vairat Purush has 3 types of bodies. They're called Virat, Sutratma and Avyakrit. Just as we have 3 states of mind, awakened, dreaming and deep sleep, Vairat Purush also has 3 states: generation, operation and destruction. Generation state is governed by Rajas Ahankar, operation state by Sattva Ahankar, and destruction state by Tamas Ahankar. The life of Vairat Purush is said to be 2 parards or 311.04 trillion human years. So trillion is 10 raised to 12, and life of Vairat Purush is 311.04 trillion years. This is the same as the lifespan of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiv. Abjivapa Sri has mentioned in the Rahasyarth of Gadada Madhya 31st Vachanamritam that the end of life of Vairat Purush is end of life of everything under him, as well as the 24 elements, Ahankar and Mahatattva, which are the next levels. And that is when the evening of Pradhan Purush falls. So we'll transition into stage 5 in just a little bit. This refers to the stratum in stage 5. It is not clear whether the earlier avatars of Lord Vishnu, Matsya, Kurma, Vara, Nrsi, Vaman and Parshuram, were those of the Lord Vishnu of the Trinity or of Vairat Purush, since Vairat Purush is mentioned in guise of Lord Vishnu. There is some mention that Virat Purush created the time-space continuum and Brahma utilized that for creation of the 14 worlds. However, it is not clear what level and what extent does it refer to. There is, however, a clear reference that speech or sound energy, as we know it, was created by Virat Purush. In Sarangpur 6th Vachanamritam, Sriji Maharaj has mentioned, with reference to Srimad Bhagavat, that Virat Purush became capable of creation only when God inspired him. So initially, God entered the Sahasrar Chakra of Virat Purush, which resulted in a vibrational energy. This energy then traveled down to Manipur Chakra in the navel. The navel lotus of Virat Purush was facing down and started facing up when the energy traveled up to it. The sound of that energy wave is called Paravani, or the divine language. Inside the body of Virat Purush, the energy then traveled back up to the heart of Virat Purush, the Anahat Chakra, and became known as Pashanti. Upon further travel to the throat or Vishuddha Chakra, it came to be known as Madhyama. And when it finally came out from the mouth of Virat Purush as a speech in form of A, U, and Ma forming Om, it came to be known as Vaikhari. And Veds were created from this Vaikhari type of speech. When the body of Virat Purush was formed, all the 24 elements, their deities, the soul of Virat Purush made up the body. But Virat Purush still did not have the energy to create the universe. Then God provided that energy for creation. It was only then that the creation was made possible. Virat Purush worships three types of Ahankar: Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. During the state of creation, he worships Rajas Ahankar, also known as Anirudh. During the state of operation, he worships Sattva Ahankar, also known as Pradyumna. During the state of destruction, he worships Tamas Ahankar, also known as Sankarshan. However, due to worship of three types of Ahankar, Virat Purush only gets the energy and power to create, maintain and operate. He does not progress spiritually to get liberated. For that, he has to worship the Supreme Lord. So since the body of Virat Purush is made up of 24 elements, let's visit the 24 elements from a larger perspective This will now take us into our stage 5 of hierarchy. For those on WebEx, I have changed the slide to show stage 5. A lot of what we see here is also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavad. I have been including a reference picture in last few weeks, slides, and I have included it again this week as well. This picture, and there are other similar pictures which are derived by groups like ISKCON from Srimad Bhagavad, and when we compare that with the hierarchy explained in Swaminarayan philosophy, it matches exactly. This establishes credibility of Swaminarayan philosophy as being aligned with the Hindu philosophy. Looking at stage 5, Mahat Tattva, and at the top, or rather in the middle, Mahat Tattva is born from unification of Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti or Pradhan Maya. So, word Prakriti and Maya is used interchangeably. So, Mahat Tattva is born from Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti. We have talked earlier in the series that Mahat Tattva and Chit are undifferentiated, and the universe exists in its subtle form in Mahat Tattva. Based on that, we mapped Mahat Tattva to be the subtle store for the entire universe, shared by everyone in the universe, using the example of cloud technology. In Gadada Pratham 12th Vachanamritam, Sriji Maharaj has explained Mahat Tattva as unpolluted, brilliant, clean or immaculate, pure sattva oriented, and peaceful. It is using the machinery of Mahat Tattva that the fructification of the deeds come about and get linked to one another. Say, for example, I pick a fight with my sister and she fights back. So both of us form a sanskar that will give us the returns of the fight that both of us picked. And since those are associated with each other, the universal Mahat Tattva makes sure the events that arise for fructification of those deeds map both of us together. From Mahat Tattva emerges Ahankar, which is of 3 types: Rajas, Sattva and Tamas. The generation, operation and destruction states of Virat Purush and dreaming, awaken and deep sleep states of human beings are associated with Rajas, Sattva and Tamas Ahankar respectively. From Tamas Ahankar, 5 quintessence and 5 fundamental elements emerge. The quintessences are the subtle form and cause of associated fundamental element. For example, order is the cause of earth, and so on. From Rajas Ahankar, we get 10 senses, 5 prans, and intellect. And from Sattva Ahankar, we get mind and the governing deities of the 24 elements. So we have Mahat Tattva Ahankar mind, intellect, 10 senses, 5 quintessence, and 5 basic elements, giving us the 24 elements. And as we saw in stage 6, these 24 elements form the body of Virat Purush and everything under him. As for Virat Purush, he worships 3 Ahankars and his body is formed with the 24 elements. But as mentioned in Gadada Madhya 31st Vachanamritam, is born out of unification of Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti and is their son. Pradhan Purush and Prakriti have many such Virat Purush as their sons. Given that the 24 elements are common across creation under Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti, it can be safely said that everything under Virat Purush, including Virat Purush, will have a similar body with 10 senses, 5 elements, 5 quintessence, and 4 inner organs. And this is true for all Virat Purush under one Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti. Now, though he said they would have 10 senses, some of the senses could be different. For example, we know that Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, they have been depicted as having 4 hands, Chaturbhuj. So, there might be some variations here or there, but at the end of the day, there will be 10 senses. Another thing is, while these 24 elements form the bodies of the souls, they also have a body of their own and a soul that resides in that body. So the universal earth element has a body and a soul. Also, the element earth has its effect, which is described as a layer of 4 billion miles in diameter. And the same goes with the remaining of the 24 elements. They have a body and a soul, and they have their own effect. The universal mind that emerges from Sattva Ahankar or Pradyumna is the connecting link for all the minds in the universe. The effect of that universal mind is the minds that reside in all of us and their communication channels. This can be better understood with an example of a cell phone. How is the connection from one cell phone to other established? When a number is dialed, the phone selects the least used frequency in the surrounding area to connect to the nearest cell phone tower. The cell phone tower then transmits that signal to the satellite. The satellite then determines the cell phone tower closest to the dialed number, and this cell phone tower in turn rings the dialed number, and a connection is established. So all individual cell phones are able to connect with each other through cell phone towers and a satellite. Universal mind acts like that telecommunication satellite And it is through the universal mind that our minds can connect with one another. We use the term telepathy to explain it. It requires an internally built energy for communication, just like the cell phones utilize electromagnetic energy, microwave and radio waves to communicate. This internal energy is generated through control of senses and, of course, control of mind itself. Even if one of the two people who want to communicate telepathically has developed this internal energy, the communication channel can be established. The speed of mind is very fast. Our mind is already on moon the moment we think about moon. So when we communicate telepathically, there is usually no latency. Unless, of course, there is latency in establishing the connection itself. But once the connection is established, there is no latency. So that was a little bit about the universal mind and how it makes telepathy possible. The universal intellect that emerges from Rajas Ahankar is many a times connected with Lord Buddha. Since it is called Buddhi. Buddhi, however, in no way or form says anything about spiritual achievements of Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha was able to go beyond the veil of Maya and is therefore beyond the intellect. That is one of the 24 elements. In fact, Anadi Mukraj Param Pujanar Mama used to mention in his lectures that after achieved Nirvana, Lord Buddha went ahead to achieve Mahanirvana and then said that don't stop there. There is something beyond Mahanirvana as well. So he must have been able to tune into the immanent form of Mood Purush, which is the first level beyond Mood Maya, and maybe even the immanent form of the next level of either Mahakal or Narnarayan or Vasudev Brahm. It's hard to say. So Pradhan Purush, which is the next level from Mahatattva, up above there is Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti. So Pradhan Purush is also called Bhuma Purush, Vishnu, Mahavishnu, Narayan, and manifested on this earth as Lord Ram by way of Lord Vishnu. To avoid confusion, we will use the term Pradhan Purush for the spiritual stratum and Lord Ram for his earthly manifestation. It is unclear whether Goddess Sita was a devotee of Pradhan Purush or a Pradhan Prakriti herself. The prevalent belief is that she was a devotee. Lakshmanji and Hanumanji were definitely Lord Ram's devotees. He was the first complete human incarnation or manifestation of a god and taught the humanity how to abide by basic virtues and ethics. Lord Ram is said to have advented in the very beginning of Treta Yuga. We'll talk about Yuga in next week. The estimated lifespan in Treta Yuga is 10,000 years. His exile lasted 14 years of a total lifespan of 10,000 years. So while the time of exile sounds short in the bigger scheme of things, it was still 14 years. During his 14 years of exile, Lord Ram built a bridge to Lanka, where Ravan kept goddess Sita captive. The satellite imaging technology has revealed that there indeed used to be a landmass connecting Rameshwaram in southern India and Mannar in Sri Lanka. When the bridge was built, Lord Ram sat on the beaches of the ocean and prayed to God of sea, Samudradev, to help him out. Samudradev did not show up for 2-3 days. So Lord Ram got angry. Excuse me. So Lord Ram got angry and was ready to dry the sea out. And the Samudradev got scared and appeared. When he appeared, he told Lord Ram that due to too much salt and impurities in the sea, Lord Ram's message was not reaching him. So maybe Lord Ram was using the communication wave channel of universal mind to communicate with the Samudradev. So that might tell us that the power of telepathy is dependent on setting up a clean and clear channel of communication. Or if we want to look at it from the scientific perspective, then maybe Lord Ram had a communication device to communicate with people living inside of the seas or oceans. So after Samudradev and Lord Ram talked, Lord Ram knew where to build the bridge. The army of apes started building the bridge by writing the word Ram on the stone and throwing the stones in the water. The stones would float on their own when the word Ram was written on them. There are two speculative theories around this. First is that there was a pumice rock lying there from past volcano, and pumice would naturally float in the waters due to its porous nature. The other theory is that they managed sound levitation with the use of word Ram. There is an experiment done by physicists in Japan that with the right amount of ultrasound waves, which are not audible to human ears, objects can be made to levitate in the air. I've included a link to this in my slides. So was the army of apes actually a very intelligent army who were able to master sound levitation with the help of Lord Ram and set one up on the beaches at Rameshwaram? Something to think about. It is believed that the shallow sea between Rameshwaram and Mannar, some places as shallow as only 3 feet, is the remnant of the bridge built by Lord Ram. So having looked at Lord Ram and his life a little bit, let's look at the stardom of Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakruti. It is still under Moolmaya, and therefore has the distinction of body and soul. However, it is beyond 24 elements, so the matter that forms their bodies must be different than the 24 elements. We do not know what it would be or what it is, but based on what we know, that 24 elements are created from Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti, we can guess that it would be different. The divine abode of Pradhan Purush is called Venkut. It is also mentioned that he has another abode in the physical layer of earth. So we said there is a physical layer of earth that is 4 billion miles in diameter. So somewhere in that layer also Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti have a abode. Maybe it's their vacation home. For the lifespan of Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti, the end of life of Virat Purush, which is 311.04 trillion years, it is half a day for Pradhan Purush and Pradhan Prakriti. So there is day and night, so 311 trillion years makes the day, so there is a night which is equally long, and that's why it's half a day. So one day is 622.08 into 10 raised to 12, or 622.08 trillion years, and that makes one day for Pradhan Purush. Such 360 days form 1 year, and they live such 100 years. So 622.08 times 10 raised to 12 times 36,000 is 22.39488 times 10 raised to 18, or to approximate it's 22.4 quintillion years. Now imagine being stuck in a body of Pradhan Purush for so many years. Yes, the powers will be immense, but doing the same thing over and over again, every single day, for quintillions of years. Not only is the lifespan longer as we go higher up in the hierarchy, but so are the powers and pleasures. So yes, more powers and more pleasures, but it also means that the attachment is higher. Higher the attachment, more difficult it is to overcome the bindings of those attachments and resulting vices. More the bindings, more difficult it is to progress to the next level. Anadi Muktraj Param Pujya Narayan Mama used to say that deities have much stronger feelings of jealousy, etc. And they get very jealous when a soul starts progressing on the spiritual path. They do all they can to hinder and block the progress. The stories of deities trying to block the worshippers of Trinity is well written over many places in scriptures. There are similar stories in Roman mythology as well. However, it is not limited to the deities. The Trinity blocks from Virat Purush. Virat Purush blocks from 24 elements. Virat Purush and 24 elements together block from Pradhan Purush, and so on. Each subsequent layer tries to block the spiritual progress of the soul to maintain its control over the soul. which means the level of freedom might increase in terms of powers, resources, and ability to execute according to one's will. But the freedom from this entire cycle of creation, the freedom to just be in the bliss all the time and have only that as an activity, diminishes as we go up till we surpass Maya, not mood Maya. It becomes slower and harder. So, aren't we lucky to be humans, stuck in a body for only 100 years or less? Aren't we lucky to have met Anadimukta like Anadimuktraj Param Puja Narayan Mama and Anadimuktraj Param Puja Leela Masi, that we do not have to worry about hindrances caused by any strata? Aren't we lucky to have become eligible for the divine bliss of the Murti of Lord Swaminarayan in a short lifespan of less than 100 years? Let's pause here today and reminisce and bask in the warmth of this knowledge and happiness, and reflect on how fortunate, loved, and cared we are. This week we looked at remainder of stage 6 and 5 as is mentioned in the Hindu scriptures. Next week we will map science to these states and talk about some scientific discoveries and theories. During that we'll talk about quantum physics, bosons, fermions, forces of nature, etc. The week after that we will look at the dimensions mentioned in Hinduism, convert them to present-day measurement systems, and try to map to the universe and the world as we know it today. For a reference, I have included a link to those measurements from Wikipedia for those who are interested. So thank you to the Satsang Sabha for patiently listening, and please be kind to overlook any shortcomings. May Lord Swaminarayan and His Anadimukta bless us all. Jai Swaminarayan. Vishal bhai, over to you.
Jai Swaminarayan.